Just want to say who you are and what you're doing here.
I'm Cranny and I'm Professor of Cultural Studies at the University of Technology in Sydney. And I'm here to work with people from the Textiles archive on a bid for an EU grant to explore the archive further. At my university we have people in design and fashion who obviously work with textiles all the time, but as well as them, there are people in my faculty from humanities and social sciences who are very interested in the whole idea of the way that textiles carry the cultural memory of a community and in fact of a whole society. So we can look at the way that, for example, we've just been talking about the way that wool came from Australia in the 19th century and throughout the 20th century was made into fabric and then garments in the UK, and or even just made into fabric and went back to Australia and was made into garments for a whole range of purposes, or not only garments but other purposes as well. And so there was that international trade involving the fabric and the wool and the whole industry, 2 industries, 3 industries getting together, but across the world, in the way that we talk about now, but it was happening back then. And then as well, lots of people migrated from the UK to Australia, and they took their textiles with them, and those textiles had particular memories for people, so they become very important, being handed down through generations. So there's a whole, and also the issue of the archive. That's another thing. We're very interested in what constitutes an archive and how an archive can become a living thing, So not only can it, we know great designers and go to archives to get ideas because of the way that societies constantly draw on the history to renew themselves, and you see that happening with the textiles. But we're also thinking, how can we make the archives a kind of living, growing entity as well? So maybe incorporating student work into the archives, or having students working in Australia and England together, and other countries as well. So, there's lots of interesting possibilities.
That's amazing. You're looking, in a way, to the past.
Yeah.
What about the future? What relevance does all of this, what you're trying to do, have for future?
Yeah. Well, I think in terms of the future, one thing is the way that the future is built on the past. That we constantly rediscover ourselves through looking at the past, and that gives us the basis to create our new understanding of ourselves and our identities going into the future. So, that's a really that's one really important aspect of it, I guess. And I think, the notion, like one of the things that I feel now is changing in a way with people is the way that we see people starting to be more hands-on. There's a sense in which people are not just wanting to, have things made for them by other people and just buy them, but they want to make things themselves, and that I think they're going to go to those archives for that purpose as well, and what they're seeing around them is all going to be incorporated into the future of their construction of their individual identities.
So you're saying that instead of buying your clothes from Zara or another sort of mass production line, people are turning more into individual designs and production.
Yeah, it's certainly what you see in higher education, which is the area I work in, is more and more people wanting to actually incorporate some kind of making into the work they do, even if it's not, designer-based work in the first instance, if they're not people who conventionally worked with materials, but they're wanting to do that, even if they're in the most theoretical kinds of areas. So I think that's a reflection of people wanting, to put themselves into everything they do. And, so this whole process of relearning, rediscovering, becomes part of making us who we are as a people, and a community. So it's quite exciting.